Earning six figures used to be the ultimate marker of financial success. But today, a massive percentage of people making over $100,000 are literally one missed paycheck away from total disaster. You probably know people who make six-figure salaries, but are somehow always broke. They drive expensive cars, live in fancy apartments, and eat at restaurants that charge $20 for a salad, but they have absolutely no savings whatsoever. Today, we are going to break down the mathematical trap of the modern high earner and why a massive income means nothing without the right mindset. When we think about living paycheck to paycheck, we usually picture someone working a minimum wage job, struggling to buy groceries. But the reality of the modern economy is that financial desperation has climbed the income ladder. There is a fundamental misunderstanding in our society that earning a lot of money is the same thing as having wealth. The person making $100,000 who spends $100,000 has a net worth of zero. Meanwhile, you might know someone who makes $40,000 a year but has managed to accumulate substantial savings by simply being intentional about their spending. The difference isn't income, the difference is mindset. Earning money is only the first half of the equation. The most important skill in wealth building isn't earning money, it's keeping money. Quick question. Who is actually wealthier? The guy making $150,000 with $500 in his checking account, or the guy making $60,000 with a $20,000 investment portfolio? The math says the guy making $60,000 is mathematically closer to financial independence. To understand how high earners go broke, let's look at a real-world mathematical breakdown. Let's meet a hypothetical household we'll call the Johnsons, two working professionals pulling in a combined $160,000 a year. They are solidly upper middle class, so they should be comfortable, right? Let's watch what happens when they buy into the lifestyle society tells them they deserve. First, the IRS shows up. After federal taxes, state taxes, and basic deductions, their $160,000 gross income turns into a take-home pay of around $9,500 per month. Next, they buy a perfectly average $500,000 house, which, with today's interest rates, property taxes, and insurance, costs them roughly $4,367 a month. That leaves them with $5,133 for everything else. Because they make good money, they finance two relatively nice cars. There goes $800 a month plus $250 for insurance. They have $600 in student loans because they needed degrees to get those high-paying jobs. Add in $800 for decent groceries, $450 for utilities, and $400 for health insurance premiums. After covering just the absolute bare minimum basics of their upper middle class lifestyle, they have about $1,500 left for the entire month. And we haven't even touched clothing, kids' activities, car repairs, or the psychological need to occasionally leave the house. They are spending nearly half of their take-home pay on housing alone. How do smart people get trapped in this cycle? It happens because of lifestyle creep and status spending. The automotive and real estate industries have become incredibly sophisticated at tapping into our psychological triggers. They don't sell products anymore. They sell lifestyles, dreams, and social status. When the Johnsons get a promotion, they don't invest the difference. They upgrade their apartment to a house, and they trade in their paid-off sedan for a $70,000 truck with leather seats. They convince themselves that driving an impressive vehicle or living in an upscale zip code shows that they are successful, reliable, and hardworking. When you are buying into an identity, suddenly a $900 car payment feels like an investment in yourself rather than a catastrophic financial mistake. Think about how insane our normalization of debt is. If someone told you they were spending $1,200 a month on clothes or coffee, you'd assume they had a serious addiction and stage an intervention. But when someone spends $1,200 a month on a car payment, we just nod and call it reliable transportation. The hardest part about earning a six-figure salary is that it usually comes with high stress, long hours, and corporate burnout. When you are exhausted from working 50 hours a week, you naturally want a reward. This leads to the most dangerous justification in personal finance. I deserve this. You take an expensive European vacation you didn't save for, or you finance a luxury watch because you feel you have earned it. But treating your income like a reward system actively destroys your foundation. Because housing and transportation have become so insanely expensive, we've essentially rebranded financial desperation as adulting. We pretend that struggling to afford basic home ownership or a car payment on a six-figure salary is just a normal rite of passage. Quick recap. You aren't rewarding yourself when you finance a luxury item to cope with your job stress. You are actually borrowing money from your future self to fund a temporary distraction, which forces you to stay trapped in the stressful job even longer. If you want to escape the six-figure trap, you have to fundamentally rewire how your brain views major purchases. When the broke high earner looks at a $30,000 car, they ask, "Can I afford the $500 monthly payment?" When a truly wealthy person looks at a $30,000 car, they ask, "What is this really costing me in terms of opportunity?" That $30,000 car isn't just $30,000, it is $30,000 that could have grown to over $200,000 in an investment account over the next 2 decades. Once you understand the math of opportunity cost, driving a reliable used Honda doesn't feel like a sacrifice or an admission of failure. It feels like a strategic choice that is actively funding your future freedom. The person driving the flashy new truck is highly likely to be lying awake at 2 a.m. stressed about money, while the person driving the older sedan is quietly building wealth, sitting on a pile of cash and sleeping soundly at night. The way out of this trap isn't making $200,000 a year instead of $100,000. If you don't fix the behavioral leaks, your expenses will just rise to meet your new income. The hardest part of breaking this cycle isn't the physical act of saving money. It's developing the identity of someone who saves money. You have to decouple your self-worth from your material assets. Real wealth is freedom, not equity. You can't access because you're trapped by the very assets that are supposed to be making you wealthy. When you start seeing money not as something that just disappears from your paycheck to fund your lifestyle, but as a tool that multiplies your options, everything changes. If you are committed to actually keeping the money you earn, hit the subscribe button for more. Remember, there is no trophy for looking rich while secretly drowning in debt. See you in the next one.